The ultimatum. Admiral Ilara Voss stood motionless before the sprawling observation window of Earth Defense Command headquarters, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. Outside, Earth's night side glittered with the lights of billions of humans going about their evening, blissfully unaware of what hung in orbit just beyond the defense platforms. The massive fleet had arrived 6 hours ago, over 300 vessels of varying sizes, the smallest dwarfing Earth's largest battlecruiser. They're requesting communication again. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Takeda said from his station, his voice betraying only the slightest tremor. Voss nodded, her silver-streaked black hair catching the blue glow from nearby monitors. At 56, she had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, though she had hoped it would never come. "Put them through on the main display," she ordered, straightening her charcoal uniform jacket. The EDC insignia, a stylized Earth embraced by protective wings, gleamed on her collar. The main screen flickered, revealing a being that resembled a humanoid mantis. Its exoskeleton shimmered with iridescent greens and blues under what must have been their ship's lighting. 4 arms were positioned in what Voss recognized as a stance of authority from the briefings. "I am Supreme Commander Kraziel of the Krellinor Imperium," the alien announced, mandibles clicking between words in a way the translation software smoothed over. "We have studied your world for decades. Your resources are required for our expansion. You will submit to resource extraction protocols immediately." Voss smiled slightly. Always the same approach with these expansionist species. No pleasantries, no negotiation. Just demands backed by intimidation. "I am Admiral Ilara Voss of Earth Defense Command. You've entered sovereign human space without permission. We request your immediate withdrawal." The alien's compound eyes seemed to shimmer with what might have been amusement. "Admiral, perhaps you fail to comprehend the situation. Our scans indicate your defensive capabilities are primitive compared to our armada. Resistance would result in unnecessary casualties among your population." One of Kraziel's lower arms gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing statistics of their fleet. 342 warships, over 15,000 fighter craft, enough firepower to reduce Earth's surface to molten slag within hours. "We've intercepted your scans," Voss replied evenly. "We understand exactly what we're facing. Then you understand the futility of resistance. We will begin landing extraction teams in 12 of your hours. Prepare your leadership for transition protocols." Voss straightened to her at full height. "That won't be happening, Commander. Instead, I'm giving you 24 hours to withdraw your forces from our system." For the first time, the alien's posture changed, a slight tilting of the head that the xenobiologists had flagged as indicating confusion or surprise. "You appear to be under some misapprehension about your position, Admiral. Your species has barely achieved rudimentary interplanetary travel. Your weapons are kinetic and nuclear at best. We detected no defensive grid that could possibly threaten our fleet." "Nevertheless," Voss said calmly, "you have 24 hours. After that, we will remove your fleet by force." The alien commander made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. "With what technology, Admiral?" "Our scans are comprehensive." "Not as comprehensive as you believe," Voss replied. 24 hours, Commander. I suggest you use them wisely." She nodded to Takeda, who cut the transmission. The command center fell silent, all eyes on Voss. "That went about as expected," she said, turning to face her senior staff. "Begin void protocol preparations. I want status reports from all 13 stations within the hour." "Yes, Admiral," her chief of operations responded, already sending secure communications to the hidden facilities across the globe. Colonel Weizong, her strategic advisor, approached her terminal. The Krellinor have a documented history of overwhelming force against civilizations who resist. The Proxima colony intercepted transmissions suggesting they've conquered 12 worlds in the past decade alone. And now they want to make Earth number 13, Voss said. "Update the President and the Security Council. Tell them we're at DEFCON 2. As her staff dispersed to their duties, Voss returned her gaze to the window. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, 300 alien warships were preparing to strip mine humanity's only home. Dr. Chandler to the command center immediately, she ordered into her comm. 10 minutes later, the disheveled physicist hurried in, clutching a tablet. Dr. Eleanor Chandler had been the lead scientist on Project Void for 15 years, ever since the discovery that changed humanity's future. "Is the system ready?" Voss asked without preamble. Chandler ran a hand through her graying hair. "We've never tested it at this scale, Admiral. The quantum displacement field has only been proven effective against test objects and the 2 scout ships that ventured too close to Mars last year. Those test objects included a decommissioned aircraft carrier, Doctor. And those scouts never reported back to their fleet, did they?" "No, but this is 300 ships, not 2. The power requirements alone." "Will the system work?" Voss interrupted. Chandler sighed. "Theoretically, yes. All 13 stations are operational. The quantum mesh is stable. But the consequences of manipulating reality at this scale, there could be unforeseen effects. More unforeseen than the extinction of our species." Voss asked quietly. The scientist looked down. "No, Admiral." "Then prepare the system. If the Krellinor don't withdraw, we activate at exactly the 24-hour mark." As Chandler left, Lieutenant Commander Takeda approached. "Admiral, we're detecting launch preparations from their flagship. They're deploying scout ships." "Let them come," Voss said. "But track them carefully. If they approach any of the Void stations, you're authorized for point defense measures only. We can't tip our hand." "Understood." Throughout the next 18 hours, Voss watched as the Krellinor probed Earth's defenses, easily evading the primitive countermeasures that Earth seemingly deployed. Occasional communications came from the alien commander, each more condescending than the last, each attempting to negotiate terms of surrender. Voss rejected them all, reiterating the deadline. At hour 20, she was called to a secure communication with the United Earth Council. "The evacuation of critical personnel to the deep shelters is complete," Council Chair Okafor informed her. "If the Void Protocol fails—" "It won't fail," Voss said with more confidence than she felt. "The fate of our species rests on technology we barely understand, Admiral." "With respect, Madam Chair, we understand it well enough. The Krellinor are following the same playbook as every other expansionist species we've studied. They assume technological development follows a predictable path. Bigger weapons, stronger shields. They can't conceive that we took a different direction entirely." "Let's hope you're right," Okafor said. "Authorization for Void Protocol activation is granted. May whatever gods might exist have mercy on us all." At hour 23, Voss addressed her command staff one final time. "For 3 decades, humanity has prepared for this moment. When the first alien signals were detected, we knew it wasn't a question of if, but when. Unlike the optimistic scenarios from our fiction, we knew that any species capable of interstellar travel that chose to visit Earth would likely not come in peace." She looked at each face in turn. "So we prepared differently. Instead of building bigger guns that would still be sticks against their swords, we focused on changing the rules entirely. In 1 hour, we either make history, or we become history." Lieutenant Commander Takeda approached her station. "Admiral, the Krellinor are launching what appear to be troop carriers. They're not waiting for the deadline." Voss nodded grimly. "Of course they're not. They never intended to negotiate." She opened a channel to the alien flagship. The mantis-like commander appeared, already in what looked like combat armor. "Your time is up, Admiral Voss. Your defiance was admirable, but futile. Our ground forces will secure your major population centers within hours." "You still have 37 minutes by my count, Commander," Voss replied calmly. "I strongly advise you to recall your forces and withdraw." "Or what, Admiral? Will you fire your nuclear weapons? Deploy your primitive kinetic defenses? We have analyzed every aspect of your military capability. There is nothing you possess that presents even a moderate threat to our armada. Voss leaned forward. That's where you're wrong, Commander. We possess the one thing your kind never anticipates. And what is that? The alien asked, mandibles clicking in what the specialists had identified as amusement. Imagination, she said simply. 36 minutes, Commander. Use them wisely. She cut the transmission. As the minutes ticked down, the command center hummed with activity. Reports flowed in from around the world. Alien landing craft entering the atmosphere, defense forces mobilizing, civilians taking shelter. Void stations report ready. Admiral, Dr. Chandler announced from her newly established station. Quantum mesh is stable. Field generators at optimal capacity. Global defense grid is standing by. Colonel Zhang added. Our conventional forces are in position to deal with any landing craft that make it through. Voss nodded, her eyes fixed on the main tactical display, showing the Krellinor fleet spreading out to optimal bombardment positions. They're preparing to attack, she observed. Exactly as predicted. With 5 minutes remaining, she opened a channel to all Void stations. This is Admiral Voss. Begin final countdown. May history remember this as the day humanity refused to go quietly into the night. As the seconds ticked away, Voss thought of her family in the deep shelters beneath the Rocky Mountains. She thought of the billions of humans going about their lives, many unaware of what hung above them. She thought of the 15 years since the quantum displacement breakthrough, and the desperate race to build a defense that defied conventional physics. 1 minute remaining, Takeda announced. Voss opened a final channel to the Krellinor flagship. This is your final warning, Commander. Withdraw immediately. The alien commander appeared, now surrounded by his bridge officers. Your time is up. Admiral, your species had such potential. It's unfortunate you chose extinction over submission. No, Commander, Voss replied softly. We chose neither. She nodded to Dr. Chandler, who pressed her palm against the activation panel. Void protocol initiated, Chandler announced. May God forgive us for what we're about to do to reality itself. Voss watched the tactical display as the countdown reached 0, and whispered, Let there be void. The demonstration. Supreme Commander Kraziel stood aboard the command deck of the indomitable Claw, his primary heart swelling with anticipation. The human resistance had been unexpected, but ultimately meaningless. Their defiance puzzled him. Their scans had been thorough, revealing defensive capabilities centuries behind Krellinor technology. Yet the human leader, this Admiral Voss, had maintained an unnerving calm throughout their exchanges. Landing forces have entered Earth's atmosphere, Supreme Commander, his second-in-command reported. Resistance is minimal. Their primitive aircraft and missile systems pose no significant threat. Excellent, Kraziel clicked. Begin the second wave. I want resource extraction facilities established on all 7 continents within 2 planetary rotations. Supreme Commander, his sensor officer interrupted. We're detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface. 13 distinct sources, evenly distributed across the globe. Kraziel tilted his head. Weapon systems. Unknown, sir. The energy signature doesn't match any known human technology. The pattern suggests, sir, the readings are increasing exponentially. Kraziel felt a tremor of unease. He had conquered 12 worlds, each with their desperate last-minute defenses. None had succeeded. Target those energy sources. Full bombardment. Targeting system active. Firing solutions. The weapons officer abruptly stopped speaking. Continue, Kraziel ordered sharply. Sir, targeting systems are. They're failing to lock. The coordinates keep shifting between real and unreal space. Before Kraziel could demand clarification, a communication request from Earth flashed on the main screen. He gestured irritably for it to be accepted. Admiral Voss appeared, still maintaining that infuriating calm. I see you've noticed our defense grid activating, Commander. I advised you to withdraw. "What trickery is this?" Krasil demanded. "Your primitive technology cannot." "That's precisely your mistake," Voss interrupted. "You assumed our technological development would follow the same path as yours. Bigger weapons, stronger shields, more efficient engines. But 50 years ago, humanity took a different path entirely." On the tactical display, Krasil watched in growing horror as one of his forward destroyers simply vanished. Not exploded, not damaged. There one moment, gone the next. "What have you done?" he whispered. "We call it the Void Protocol," Voss explained, her voice almost gentle. "When we discovered quantum displacement theory, we realized we could selectively edit portions of reality itself. Your ship wasn't destroyed, Commander. It was simply removed from our universe's equation. Another ship disappeared, then two more." Krasil's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress as he turned to his science officer. "Countermeasures? Now, there are no countermeasures against this, Commander," Voss continued. "You can't shield against something that retroactively ensures you never existed in this spatial coordinate." Panic erupted across the command deck as ships continued vanishing from the tactical display. Not in explosions of fire and debris, but in silent, existential erasure. "Recall all landing craft," Krasil ordered. "Prepare for immediate withdrawal." "Too late," Voss said quietly. "The protocol is fully activated. The quantum displacement field now encompasses your entire fleet. I gave you 24 hours, Commander. You chose not to listen." Krasil stared at the human admiral. "You cannot do this. The consequences of manipulating quantum reality at this scale were carefully calculated," Voss finished for him. "We've spent 15 years perfecting this technology, ensuring it only affects our targets without cascading effects. Your fleet will be displaced. Your people at home will never know what happened to you. They'll only know that attacking Earth results in fleets that never return." Around him, bridge officers were reporting more disappearances. The mighty Krellinor Armada, 300 ships strong, was being systematically erased from existence. "We can negotiate," Krasil offered desperately. "Our empire has resources, technology. You had your chance to negotiate, Commander. You chose intimidation instead." Voss leaned forward. "Humanity isn't interested in conquest or extraction. We only want to be left alone. Consider the few of your ships we're allowing to escape as messengers." Krasil felt a cold realization wash over him. "You're letting some of us survive deliberately." "Of course," Voss nodded. "What good is a deterrent if no one knows about it? Return to your people, Commander. Tell them what you witnessed here. Tell them that Earth doesn't fight wars. Earth simply rewrites reality to exclude those who threaten us." On the tactical display, only 27 ships remained of his once mighty armada. Krasil felt the unfamiliar sensation of fear as he watched the quantum displacement effect approaching his flagship. "This is monstrous," he whispered. "You've weaponized reality itself." For the first time, Admiral Voss's expression hardened. "No, Commander. What's monstrous is traveling across the stars to strip mine inhabited worlds when the universe is full of uninhabited resources. What's monstrous is assuming might makes right. Humanity looked into the abyss of cosmic indifference and decided we would not follow the path of empires like yours." The science officer approached Krasil, mandibles trembling. "Supreme Commander, the displacement field is reaching the flagship. We have perhaps 2 minutes before." "Initiate emergency jump," Krasil ordered. "Get us out of this system." "The quantum displacement is affecting our jump drives," the officer replied, panic evident despite Krellinor military discipline. "Spatial coordinates are becoming unstable." Admiral Voss watched this exchange with something approaching pity. "Your remaining ships are free to go, Commander. The displacement field will spare your flagship and 26 other vessels, enough to spread the word, but not enough to pose any further threat." Around the indomitable claw, the rest of the mighty armada continued to vanish, ship by ship. 300 reduced to 27 in less than 5 minutes. "You've made an enemy this day," Krasil warned, his voice shaking with rage and fear. The Krelnor Imperium spans 57 star systems. We will return. No, Commander, Voss said with quiet certainty. You won't, because now you know the consequence. She gestured to someone off-screen. Displacement field is now locked to recognize Krelnor quantum signatures. Any future incursion will trigger an immediate void response. No warnings, no second chances. Kraziel stared at the human in disbelief. Such power, wielded with such certainty. What are you? Admiral Voss smiled slightly. We're humans, Commander. We spent our history fighting each other, developing ever more creative ways to kill our own kind. When we looked to the stars, we hoped to find peace. Instead, we prepared for war, not with bigger guns, but by changing the rules entirely. Her expression softened slightly. Safe journey home. Commander, we'll be watching. The communication ended. On the tactical display, the quantum displacement effect receded from the remaining ships. Get us out of this system, Kraziel ordered, his voice hollow. Maximum speed. As the 27 survivors of the once mighty Krelnor Armada fled Earth's orbit, Kraziel gazed at the beautiful blue-green world shrinking on the view screen. For the first time in his military career, he felt genuine fear, not of death, which all warriors must face, but of something far worse, obsolescence. The humans hadn't just defeated them, they had rendered the very concept of military conquest against Earth meaningless. What use were weapons and ships against a species that could simply edit you out of reality? Back on Earth, Admiral Voss watched the alien ships retreat beyond the orbit of Mars. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers and tears of relief. Dr. Chandler approached, her face showing exhaustion and wonder. It worked exactly as theorized. 315 targets selectively displaced without quantum cascade effects. And the landing forces? Voss asked. Displaced along with their ships. Reality has been adjusted. They were never here. Colonel Zhang joined them, tablet in hand. We're receiving reports from defense forces worldwide. The alien craft simply vanished mid-flight. Civilian casualties appear minimal. Voss nodded, the weight of the day's events finally showing on her face. Alert the Security Council that the threat has been neutralized. Maintain Void Protocol standby status for the next 72 hours in case they're foolish enough to return. Do you think they will? Zhang asked. Voss shook her head. No. The Krelnor are conquerors, not suicides. They'll spread the word about what happened here today. She turned back to the observation window, looking out at the night side of Earth, still glittering with the lights of billions of human lives continuing undisturbed. For thousands of years, humanity prepared for war by building better ways to destroy. 50 years ago, we chose a different path. A path that saved us today, Chandler observed. Yes, Voss agreed quietly. Though I wonder what the rest of the galaxy will make of us now. We've just announced our presence in the most dramatic way possible. They'll fear us, Zhang said. Voss frowned slightly. Fear leads to desperation. I prefer respect. Perhaps both, Chandler suggested. Fear from those who would conquer, respect from those who would cooperate. Voss nodded slowly. Maybe that's the best we can hope for. She glanced at the tactical display where the retreating Krelnor ships were now barely visible. In any case, the galaxy now knows. Earth doesn't fight wars like everyone else. Earth simply rewrites reality to exclude those who threaten us. She turned to her staff. And that is humanity's message to the stars.